How y'all doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Mm-hmm.
I guess Grayson Howard is now someone you can stand up there and talk about. So, what are all the great and wonderful things you can share with the public about your guy now?
About Pup, well, it is Grayson. We call him Pup every now and again, but I tried to call him Grayson for the very first time, and it didn't go over well. But it's definitely Pup Howard. Unbelievable dude. From the first time we met, we kind of clicked. Family guy. His father, his brother, his sisters, they're all great people, and he's a guy who just he kind of what you embody, what you want your program to kind of to be about. Military background with his father, and it shows. He's kind of a dialed-in dude. So very excited that he's here. He's kind of going through an acclimation period right now, just being around the guys, so he's not nervous when spring starts, and he's just getting used to hearing us in our coach's voice, which is cool. Not the recruiting voice is a big difference. Can't be too bad the first couple of days. Make sure he, yeah, ease him in. Yes.
Clayton, obviously you guys are going to be down some defensive starters that you guys have relied on all year in this bowl game. What's the plan for replacing those guys? Do you have guys in mind that might start in their place? Will be a mix of guys. What are you kind of looking at?
Well, the way it kind of worked out is, we up front we've always played 6 guys a game. That's our goal. So really up front it is what it is with between Boogie and Tonka, Nick Barrett, TJ Saunders, and I think we have to activate another one of the freshmen, but for the most part, we have the nucleus there. The edges, we lost Gilbert, obviously, so now, Tonka got to play multiple positions like he did during the year, that's not a surprise. At linebacker, we should be good. Defensive backs, obviously, we lost Cam, we lost Rush. Those guys wish them well as they go on to their next journey, but they did an unbelievable job for us, and the guys behind them got to step up between, obviously, Dow. You saw Dow in the Clemson game kind of expand his role, and guys like, DQ and Nick may have to play multiple positions to make sure guys, everybody got to step up their play.
Clayton, I'll ask about Pup again too, but just I know it's an acclimation period for him being up here, but what can you learn about a guy when he comes in for bowl practice and getting him adjusted to the college game?
You can learn a lot. You can obviously get a good feel for his body type, get a good feel for his functional movement skills, get a good feel for, how he can – right now, obviously, we're not going to start the playbook back over and start it at point zero for him. He has to pick up on the back end, game 13, and you can kind of get a feel for what's going to be too much. But, that's the only thing you can really get. But right now, he's just sitting in the meeting, listening, asking a couple questions here and there, and I will start him back over in January.
Clayton, what'd you think coming out of the Arkansas game way back, in September, and you lose 2 starters? Did you think wow, this could be a long season? I know you're always an upbeat guy. And then I know it's like the cliche of next man up, but you've lost so many guys. Do you have any other sort of buzz phrase or anything of how you got through this?
I'm definitely an upbeat guy, meaning I kind of on the positive, not negative. And sometimes if I'm neutral, I'm either neutral or positive, but absolutely, you still have to think and plan, and you can say "oh shucks," a couple other words every now and again when guys went down. But like I said earlier in the year, my main thought was for those guys and just how I felt bad for them. But as far as you really can't, you don't have time because nobody else is feeling sorry for us. I promise you, Mo Kaba or Jordan Strong didn't get a get well call from anybody that we was going to play. So nobody's going to feel sorry for us. We feel sorry for the kids as people and because they're part of our family. And you got to move on. You have to got to keep going. And obviously we have guys in the building. You got to coach them, you got to train them, you got to prepare them, and you wish them the best. And that's all you can do. You really can't stop because I promise you, nobody else felt sorry for us. I know for sure they didn't get a get well card from anybody else. So nobody else really was worried about what was going on in this building. You guys are, and our fans and stuff, but for the most part, you don't have time to stop.
Obviously, it's the other side of the ball, but what have your first conversations been like with Dowell Loggins, and how do you kind of, from a fellow coordinator perspective, feel like he's kind of settled in these first couple of weeks?
He's been in and out, but he's a guy that we kind of met the summer, I think it's summer 21, and then, obviously talked to him a little bit during the season. But he's the kind of guy, obviously Coach Beeman known him for a while, so just talk football with him. But I think he's going to gel very well with this staff and with these people in the building. I'm looking forward to some things that he can do.
Kind of going back to Kaba going down and I guess allowing Stone to step into probably a bigger role than what maybe was anticipated. How have you seen Stone sort of progressed through the season as he's gotten more acclimated to things?
It's really cool watching, the younger guys who, some guys can learn football easier than others, but it's really cool to watch guys like a Stone or Bam Martin Scott who just every week they learn something new. They see a new play, they see a new fit, and they may play. If they play a lot, they're gonna experience something completely different, and then they have to retain it. That's the part I love about coaching is watching kids who can retain stuff, and then at the end of the year or at the end of the spring when we start back over, we can now have experiences that we can go back to and we can lean on them. That's one of my favorite parts. Like with Debo, he played 24 snaps last year. He played close to 300, maybe 250 this year, and just having those conversations with him and watching him grow, it's pretty cool watching those two guys develop.
Speaking of Mo and Jordan, how has their rehab come along? Do you anticipate either guy being able to do anything in the spring? Just where are they at as far as that goes?
Well, Clint Haggard and his staff do a great job of keeping those guys on track or ahead of the schedule. And, unfortunately, this is not their first time going through this injury, either one of those dudes. So they kind of know how to handle it themselves. But this spring, it'll be more just let's just get better at learning the game of football. You can never, like I said, I learned something today at practice. So you can never learn enough of football, enough of things that's going to happen on the field. And I think that's where you can gain an advantage if you're a guy that's injured.
Shane's talked a few times this year about Nick Immanwari, about how he was such a great scouting find by the coaching staff. What kind of qualities did you guys see in him that really stood out to you that told you, this guy could make a quick impact? And are there any guys in this current class that maybe you see some of those same kinds of qualities?
Yep. Obviously, we can start with Nick. I feel like Nick he just stood out at camp, and he was also a guy, we had a great relationship with his high school football coach. So the information that he's going to tell you, you trust it more than someone you may have, that you don't know, just plain and simple. And just the thing that when you watch him run and jump and go lateral and go high point footballs, and you have to use your imagination now. So that's kind of what it comes to, really. And then watching him practice the first 5 practices, him and DQ, they just got to places quicker than other kids. That's what it comes down to. Then you say, okay, now where do they fit? And obviously, we didn't know that Nick was in my room on paper. He was at nickel on paper. Then I think he's found his home.
Looking ahead to Notre Dame, have you kind of got a gut feel on what you're going to see at quarterback from them? And as you kind of prepare your defensive game plan, do you think they're going to run it because they've done that quite well against a number of teams?
Yep. Notre Dame is obviously, as far as their quarterback situation, they have a guy, number 10, who declared for the National Football League. And there's other guys on tape, so have a really good feel who may go out there. Like I said, you never know. You got to just be prepared for everything. And obviously, they're going to have the prototypical size across the front at every position because of the way they recruit and how they can scour and put a bow and arrow on certain guys on the United States map and go get them, at least gain their interest. But so that's the advantage that they do have. They do have big guys. So obviously, we expect them to try to pound it and run it and play action and do what they do. They're not going to change their entire identity because of us, but their identity is to definitely try and run the ball first.
Clayton, what did you learn at practice today?
I learned that whenever 2 guys are close, you got to make sure the DBs are talking, and the one on the inside has to slide 2 steps more inside and head up. And that's what it was.
I guess you've talked a little bit about this freshman class already from a defensive back standpoint. What have you seen the growth, whether it's from Emory Florida, Kawan Banks, or Anthony Rose, or that Keenan Nelson too? What have you seen the growth there, and how comfortable are you putting him out there against Notre Dame?
As far as the growth, it's to me, it starts with Coach Gray. Coach Gray is a coach here. If you lift this board up, you'll see all the notes that you want to see in regards of just the details and what the DBs need to play at. And that's what I've seen from those guys. They watch Cam and they watch Rush, take the notes and understand it. And the guys that before Nick and DQ, they watch those guys learn the game. And it's not just about how fast you can cover, how great you can cover and make plays. It's the details within the details. And I think that's where I've seen the growth. And they still have a ways to go, but I've seen the growth. So that's the part that's exciting for me, is watching young guys just continue to progress.
I'm going to apologize to you ahead of time and anybody else who doesn't like these questions, but I would like to get a few of your thoughts on some of the signees who Coach Beamer did not speak about yesterday, just individually, if you don't mind running through a handful of guys, what you like about them, and start with Judge Collier.
Yeah, is there a reason why he didn't speak on them, or I'm good to speak
No.
on them? You're not going to set me up, man. I'm telling you. I'm not falling for anything like that. I'm good, though. All right, so Judge Collier was a guy who came to camp, long, athletic. He has the traits that we asked for in defensive backs. He's long, he's smart, got bright eyes about him, and the fact that he can run, he returns kicks, so he brings that awareness that you need in the defensive back room, and he's going to be a guy that picks things up well.
Montague Raines.
Montague Raines, violent, real violent pass rusher, takes coaching, raw, as they would say, but raw can also be looked at as negative, but his rawness is good because he is a guy who will look you in the eye. I mean, Coach Freddie Kitchens taught him how to pass rush one move this summer at camp, and he went out there and perfected it after 2 reps, and Freddie was just talking to him, and the kid went back out and dominated the rep. But he's violent, he's big, he worked hard, and he's young, and he's still a baby.
All right, Zabari Sandy.
Jabari Sandy is another defensive back that can do multiple things. So is he a corner? Is he a nickel? Is he a safety? What that does for us, it makes us very multiple whenever we play teams like a Tennessee that can spread you out, and safeties can cover like DQ did against Tennessee. That was a big that we brought that kind of DB in that can cover receiver in the slot.
Desmond Umeozulu.
Yep, long kid. He's very similar to Montague, playmaker. He's going to bat so many balls down that when he's here in Columbia and all over the SEC, and those plays are going to win games for us. So that length you can't coach.
And last one, Cameron Upshaw.
Cameron Upshaw, another defensive back that can do multiple things. He plays corner, he plays quarterback, he plays safety. Those are my favorite kind of DBs because you don't know how big they're going to get. They're going to be 210, they can be 200, and they can move like a corner, hit like a safety. It makes it very fun for us to kind of move our pieces of the puzzle around, and as we think about this thing going in 23. Thank you very much, man.
Kind of sticking with new players, Shane Beamer mentioned something yesterday about how he had you watch Mario Anderson's film as a running back before kind of looking at him in the portal. A, is that kind of a cross-coordinator thing, a regular part of the recruiting transfer portal? And B, what was it about Mario that really stood out to you from a defensive perspective?
Yes, that's cool. So that's not always happens. So sometimes we watch tape as a group. You can watch tape as a defense. And let's say if Mario was in my area, I would have to evaluate that as well. And then somebody just randomly asked me. They wanted an unbiased opinion. So it's kind of a setup. So I've been asked that before, and I didn't like a person, so I kept it honest with them. But what I saw was a guy who has great patience as a runner, who understands blocking schemes, who understands the angle of point of attack and how to cut up, not always cut it back into the defense. Smart runner who going to get positive yards. And so that's what I saw, and a guy who you can use on third down as well.
Clayton, beating Tennessee and Clemson and, knocking each of them out of the playoff, and then being attached to Notre Dame here for a month going into a bowl game. From what you've seen on the recruiting trail, how much has that helped you with the 24, 25 guys, and how many more doors has that opened for you guys?
I really do think it's beneficial. I mean, it's a lot easier to go recruiting on November, but it was December the 1st, was the first day out on the road. And it was just, it's always nice to go recruit as a change of scenery, obviously, one. But two, it was different to go when I had on the Garnet shirt or the Garnet jacket that I had on. Everyone talked about those 2 games, like teachers in the hallway, coaches, players. And so when you're a young 24 and 25 guy who we can't talk to during this time, they hearing it throughout the school as well. But it's when you write them letters or send them text messages, that's all you got back. So it's a great way to start your sophomore and junior recruiting.
Clayton, I got 2 for you, but with O'Donnell Fortune, seems like he's one of those guys that's been a rotational piece the last couple of weeks. Growth there, and how much of a role do you foresee him having in the bowl game?
He'll have a huge role in the bowl game. He'll be a guy that would have to go out there and step up his play, and he has the talent. He has the ability. It's all about being consistent, and I think that, obviously, sometimes the door opens or whatever the saying is, but obviously Cam and rushers aren't here. And he knows, it's either now or never. That would be my mindset if I was him. I hope that, he's taking that same mindset. But that's one thing we always tell our guys is get ready on those even week 1 through 12 when your number is called. You don't have to make this drastic change. And I truly feel like he has grown throughout the year, and he's now just being himself. And it's cool to see, like, if he's not, like, all of a sudden trying to do too much, that means he wasn't locked in on game 1 through 12. So it seemed like to me that he's been locked in on game 1 through 12.
How much fighting did you have to do with Coach Stepp, with Bakari Swain, and getting him as a defensive back instead of a receiver?
Stepp knows he don't want me. Stepp's a good guy. I like Stepp. One of my favorite guys, but not much. No, I'm just kidding. Bakari's a good player. Bakari's going to have an opportunity to showcase his skills on either side of the football.
How much have you guys seen from Anthony Rose here these last couple weeks, and maybe him having an opportunity to play next week?
The whole team was happy for Anthony because we all know that it wasn't his grades. It was just a mix-up in an academic credit issue transferring school. So he's a good student who does very well in the classroom. So you actually felt bad for him initially. Luckily, the NCAA let us still bring him here and kind of like a red shirt. Now they approved him, which is awesome. So the team stood up and was happy for him. He's always got a big smile on his face, but now it's bigger, and so we're excited to watch him play. He has a lot of skill sets. He'll definitely help us in some type of role. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas.